so nice to be here, but I don't really feel comfortable. I'm outside my comfort zone. Did you know, according to studies, more people are scared of dying than public speaking? I'm one of them. I work as a newspaper journalist, so I always say I'm a woman of the written, but not the spoken word. And also, I'm at home in the German language, not in this one. So, why I'm here, you're probably wondering. Well, when TEDx asked for my participation, they said they want to feel the speakers comfortable on stage, and therefore a coach will help with the performance. So I thought, take this chance and do something new, something I normally don't like to do. Don't you believe that this is one way to grow, as I believe? I'm here to tell you an amazing story about 4 guys and their project. A project where I have been involved from the very beginning. And these 4 guys, they trust me and said, you can present our project, which is yours as well. This project is Marie, die Vorarlberger Straßenzeitung. Marie is a street paper like Augustin in Vienna or Zwanziger in Innsbruck. You probably already know street papers and their concept. If not, here's a short explanation. The street paper Marie is an unbureaucratic offer for people who live below the poverty line. They sell the paper on the street and can keep half of the sales price, which is €2.50. So people get work and money. Refugees, Romas, and persons with no own home sell Marie. Through this work, they come in contact with the majority society, and both get to know each other. It's like building bridges. These bridges are used frequently. Some people already have their own vendors. They bring them cappuccino to the place where they sell. They're talking a lot together. Yes, they're already friends, like you can see here. Oh, like here. Once I spoke with an 86-year-old woman who always sells Marie at the same grocery shop. A young refugee from Nigeria sells there. This lady told me that she'd never met a person of different skin. Again? This lady told me that she never met a person of different skin color before in her life. They made friends, and even more. The vendor says this woman is like a mother for him. She takes care of him, brings him food, or drives him to the station if it's rainy. Now I want to take you to the past. Come with me, please. At this moment, 1 year ago, even the idea of Marie wasn't born. But there were 4 guys who met per chance. Robert, Patrick, Gernot, and Gerhard. They didn't know each other so well, but they all wanted to do something new in the media market of Vorarlberg. And each of them had already considered making a street paper here. They wanted change. They wanted to do something for the poor. In August 2015, they started thinking, shall we make a street paper? 1 month later, in early September, they made the decision, yes, we do. Only 3 months later, on December 8th, the first edition was planned to hit the roads. Are you aware how long it takes to bring a new newspaper on its feet, to make all the plans, the layout, etc.? Some need half a year, some 1 year. I even heard of 2 years. Well, Marie did it in 3 months. But you have to consider, the founders of Marie all had and have other full-time jobs, by the way, in the media and advertising sector, where they had to work. Only 1 month before the first edition came out, my colleague Frank and I officially began to work in the editorial office. So we really didn't have much time to make Marie. All of us, the 4 founders, my colleague Frank and I, we just did it. We didn't plan around and asked us all the time, shall we do it like that? Is this even possible? We just made this newspaper. We jumped into the cold water and swam as good as possible. While we were working for the first edition, we had to talk with many people, especially with staff from social institutions, but also with public officers, potential advertising customers, and so on. We've heard often, a street paper, this is such a good idea. Some time ago, we also wanted to make one, but there were always reasons not to make it. Or maybe it was just the wrong time for them, so the right time for us, for Marie. When I prepared this talk, one of our founders said to me, "It's amazing how fast great projects can be realized if the time is right, and when people believe in the idea." But back to our story. On December 8th, the first edition came out. Imagine, one day before, we had 0 vendors, although we really have tried to find some. Then a snowball effect. We had 2 sellers on day 1, 10 on day 5, and more than 30 on day 10. The reason for that, word of mouth among the sellers. We had printed 10,000 papers. Some people said when they heard this, "You're brave." And we also thought 10,000 is a lot. But you know what? On Christmas, we were sold out. 2 weeks after the paper came out. This was a really wonderful Christmas present. But it was getting even better. In March, we doubled the edition to 20,000 papers, where we still are. I want to say thanks at this point, and also to you. I want to say thanks to the people of Vorarlberg who received our street papers so well. They show having a heart for persons who didn't fall on the sunny side of life. Did you know, in the German language, Marie is not only a woman's name, it also means money. So much turns around money, whether you have it or not. Let's talk about money now. You've probably asked yourself, how is our street paper financed? We get no financial support, not from the provincial government, nor any social institution. We want to be independent. Means, if we would be financed from, for instance, an institution, they would or could say us what we should write about. But that's not Marie. We want to be free to tell what's happening in Vorarlberg. The 4 founders, they financed this project. Meanwhile, this isn't necessary anymore. We get enough cash through the money which is left from the sales, through advertisement in Marie, and through donations. Nobody knew how well Marie would work. It was a risk for the founders. Moreover, these 4 guys invested a lot of time. All work they've done until now was unpaid. I think what the founders did is brave and admirable. This was the story how we started and how we grew. What do you see here? What do you see here? He is an only 8-month-old child. These are 8 months of love and development. We're still learning to run and getting up if we fall. Let me tell you now some stories about our vendors and readers. To start with the sellers. Many of them are very glad to have this work. One man was so happy when he could register as a Marie seller that he made a selfie with my colleague Robert, who brought him into our team. Another time, my colleague Frank drove one new vendor to the place where he could sell the paper. When they arrived, this man almost cried and said, "I'm so happy being a Marie seller now." And he gave Frank a kiss on the cheek. This is not common in Vorarlberg, aside if you are friends. I work as a journalist more than 10 years now. My colleagues Robert and Frank more than 20. In all these years of journalism, none of us never got so nice feedback from our readers. They really liked Marie. 4 or 5 of them told us that they read everything from the beginning to the end of the paper. This is a compliment for a newspaper. Once, we printed a poem from a Syrian refugee, which he wrote about his flight in Arabic and was translated to German. Then a woman called me and said, "This poem touched my heart. I was crying while reading it." And she cried a little on the phone. Another time, we had a big story about a transgender woman in the paper. She lived 50 years as man, always knowing and feeling, I'm not a man, I want to be a woman. Her life was often horrible. Then I met an 86-year-old woman from my little village in the mountains. I knew she read this article, and I was curious what this conservative woman says about it. How did you like the article? I asked her. Her answer? This poor woman, she had to suffer so much in her life. Through this article, the elder woman got to know something about transgender. Instead of rejecting the transgender woman, she felt understanding. If an article moves something, and even if it's for only one person, this is the greatest for me as a journalist. Now that I'm coming to the end of my talk, some more words about me and Marie. I'm the chief editor of our street paper. I often really love my job. But sometimes it's also a challenge, and I'm outside my comfort zone. Occasionally, I have to do things which are not nice to do, and I'm a nice person. These are things like telling a freelancer, if necessary, that he hasn't done good work. And also, I have pressure and responsibility in my job. In my darkest Marie moments, I cried and thought of quitting everything, but thank goodness I didn't do it. I get many chances through this work, like this TED Talk. Or just yesterday, I arrived from Athens, where I have been joining a global summit for street papers from all over the Western world. More or less, there are only street papers in the West. The summit was exciting, and I've met many interesting people. So you see, it was worth stepping outside my comfort zone. This triggered me to consider my potentials. I've told you stories about touching people's heart, and I also gave you my feelings. I've told you stories about believing in an idea, about just doing it, and about building bridges with people less privileged than we are. I hope I inspired you with these stories.